Lovely good morning to you, our viewers. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Camnet TV Breakfast Show. Of course, on Fridays, we always look at business. However, our sincere apology for bringing the show a bit late. This was due to circumstances beyond our control. But anyway, we have a lot of segments that we have lined up this morning for you. We hope that you stay tuned until the end of the program so that you'll be able to learn more of the things we're going to be talking about. Anyway, in studio, I am not alone. I am joined by my colleague. Anyway, she always introduced me as the lovely, beautiful, amazing woman. Yes, good morning, Prudence, to you. How are you?
Of course, Miriam, I'm very fine, thank you. How are you? And how are you, our Camnet viewer? Watching us wherever you are. It can be you're watching us on your device. It can be that you're watching us in the comfort of your home, or you're already in the office and you're listening to Camnet TV. Thank you so much for tuning to Camnet TV. This is Prudence Chota. And of course, on Friday, we talk about business, of what is happening around in the business sector.
How is your morning?
Mimi, my morning is very fine.
Okay, ready for the day?
Of course.
I can see that. Anyway, what we do normally before we go basically into what we have for this morning on our show, we always make sure that we emphasize that you exercise in the morning. And right about now, we are going direct into our morning boost, and catch us on the other side.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome to our morning boost. I am Isaac Machisa, and I'm back. And let's do something quick now. I need that. Let's go. One each. Just 5 minutes every morning. You're good to go. Let's go. One knee each. Two knees now. 1, 2. 1, 2. 2 knees each. Two each. 2. And back here, march. Let's march. Let's go. Let's go. Go. Let's go. And we're going to do a little bit of abs today. A bit of abs. Let's go. Steady. Stretch. All right. Let's do a bit of abs now. Okay? Let's see how many we can do. So I'm going to lie down here. Join me. Come with me. Ready? No more crunch. Imagine you have a coin here. So you need to lift your head. Go. Ten, take a break. 10 seconds, 20, no, not 20, 10 or 5 or 15 maximum. Let's go another 10. Let's go. 21. Okay, so let's do abs now. 1, 2, 3, 4. 10. 20. 30. So remember, I need to be taking some breaks in between, but I need a straight 30. After 10 abs, take a 10 seconds break or 15. Let me give me my last 10. Let's go. 10, 9, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. So try that, and it's gonna work good for you. Let's go. So that was for the abs. You do that, then I'm gonna introduce another workout, then we'll be signing out soon. Okay, so relax your muscles, and there we go again now. Let's work on the butts now. So I'll do 10 each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Next workout, straight. Then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Last 10. Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And good morning. Have a great day. This has been Isaac Matsa, and I'm gonna see you next week at the same time. Remember always to have a morning boost before you go out for the day. Thanks.
I hope you have exercised this morning. We always emphasize when we come on the program to say it is important for you to keep fit. My colleague and I always do that in the morning. I don't know about you. Anyway, let me not speak on her behalf. Perhaps I can ask her, Miriam Kayamba.
I was exercising.
You exercise in the morning.
I do that every single day. I was doing that now.
Okay.
Yeah, with
Okay.
Isaac. I was doing that now. I don't know if you did exercise in the morning, but yeah, I do.
I want to live like Kaunda and other legends who think Queen Elizabeth is still alive.
Exactly. You should be inspired by that, Prudence.
So, of course, for me, exercising should be mandatory, eating healthy foods, and of course, knowing about my health through visiting health facilities. Talking about that, we are going to look at today's topic of discussion on the doctor's corner, Miriam,
Yeah.
and we are looking at rheumatic heart disease and how is it that it can be prevented. If you follow Camnet Television Breakfast Show, every morning we do play a clip where the doctors talk about different diseases in like almost the whole day, the whole time, and every day. And today on Friday, we are looking at how is it that we can prevent this particular disease. I don't know how much you know about that, Miriam.
Anyway, Prudence, I wouldn't want to comment much before the doctors give, you know, their view concerning this particular disease. So let's get to see what the doctors have to say, and then, yeah, we'll be able to say more about that.
Good morning, our viewers. Welcome to a Health Corner, proudly brought to you by the Medical Women Association of Zambia. I'm Dr. Chelo Mwanza. So this week, we've been looking at rheumatic heart disease, or RHD in short. We've looked at what causes rheumatic heart disease. We talked about frequently improperly treated sore throats. We've talked about the signs and symptoms of rheumatic heart disease, which is joint pains, abnormal hand movements, reddish discoloration on the skin, small growths or nodules under the skin. We've talked about signs of heart failure in the late stages of rheumatic heart disease. I also talked about the treatment of rheumatic heart disease, how that in a child whose valves are severely damaged, they may need open heart surgery to change the valves. And we also talked about the complications. So we talked about how heart failure can come about. We talked about infective endocarditis. We talked about clot formation in the chambers that have been enlarged. We also talked about loss of school time and even gradually reduction in school performance of the child because of frequent hospital admissions. Today, we're going to talk about how we can prevent rheumatic heart disease. So remember, we said a rheumatic heart disease is actually disease of the valves of the heart that occurs as a result of an improperly treated bacterial sore throat. Okay, so then how can we prevent it? So firstly, the first thing we can do to prevent rheumatic heart disease is to seek medical help at every point when your child has a sore throat. Remember, a sore throat is pain when a child is swallowing their food, they could be vomiting, and sometimes they may have a fever. Actually, most of the times they will have a fever. So if your child is presenting like that, it means your child may have a sore throat and they need to see a doctor as soon as possible. The other thing we need to do is to make sure this child gets the correct medication as prescribed by the healthcare worker. A number of medications can be given for the sore throat, but most importantly is adhering to the correct medications prescribed, the duration of how long to take these drugs, and also how to take them. So if you are asked to take them 4 times per day for 10 days for Pen V, it's just supposed to be like that, because if we don't properly treat this sore throat, it can lead to rheumatic heart disease. Would want to advise our parents out there that take care of our children that please do not self-medicate. If your child has a sore throat, seek medical help so that you get the correct medication for that particular sore throat. Now, in an event that we fail to prevent the progression of this sore throat to rheumatic heart disease, we still need to prevent the child from getting another episode of acute rheumatic fever. So even if a child has already progressed to rheumatic heart disease, they can still have a reinfection and a reactivation of acute rheumatic fever. So for such children, we put them on monthly injections. I know, very painful. But yes, this injection is meant to help prevent the reactivation so that this child does not get a further damage to the damaged heart valves already. So then, why should we prevent rheumatic heart disease? To start with, prevention is better than cure. Of course, when we look at the cost, it is cheaper for a child to have their sore throat treated as compared to having open heart surgery, which is costly because now we may need to change these valves that are not easily accessible and not cheap. That's one reason we need to prevent this rheumatic heart disease. And of course, we don't want this child to lose life from a condition that can be prevented. So that's why we need to prevent rheumatic heart disease so that our children can grow up to be productive members of society. Now, the other thing that the other reason why we need to prevent rheumatic heart disease is that open heart surgery require a number of follow-up reviews, and on top of that they'll need to be put on blood thinners. So children that have had open heart surgery and change of their valves need to be on blood thinner for the rest of their life, which is okay, well, in the males, because not so much of a problem is encountered. But for girls who are in the reproductive age group, these blood thinners tend to affect their unborn children. And so if a girl in the childbearing age has had their valves replaced because they have had rheumatic heart disease, they need to see the obstetrician and gynecologist to discuss matters around them having to conceive. Some children, or rather some girls who are in the reproductive age group, may not be able to conceive because they may just need to be on these blood thinners, which may affect their unborn children. In conclusion, rheumatic heart disease is a condition that can be prevented as long as we treat the sore throats as they are supposed to. And remember that it is cheaper to treat a sore throat than to have open heart surgery. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dr. Chelo from Medical Women Association of Zambia.
There you have it. That was Dr. Chelo Mwanza from the Medical Women's Association of Zambia. And of course, we were discussing how to prevent rheumatic heart disease. I hope you have learned something from there. If you're seeing some of your children having signs such as sore throats and stuff like that, ensure that you take them to the health facility so that they can be checked. Remember, the doctor said avoid self-prescription. This, in most cases, has been one of the leading cause of deaths that could have been prevented, but because we like to self-prescribe, even when you don't know what your condition is, we like to take medicines in the name of, no, I have first
Google, yeah, exactly.
So if you have headache, you take Panadol. If you have a sore throat, you take Pain V and stuff like that. Let's take our kids, let's take ourselves to health facilities in order to ensure that we are checked to see what is it that is our problem. Miriam.
Yes, so right about now, Prudence, what is our next segment?
We are going to look at the money market. When we come on this program, always we emphasize to say it is important to know how is it that our local currency is faring against other major convertibles. And if you are a business person, you import goods from outside Zambia, it's important for you to know how is it that our local currency is performing against other major convertibles.
And you know, I must mention, I'm happy with how our kwacha is faring currently at the moment.
Yeah, we've seen some
stability.
aspect of stability.
Yes, I like it that way, and I hope we'll have some more improvement. Yeah,
going forward. So right about now, we are going to have our money market today, Friday, 20th May 2022, as Zambia kwacha against the United States dollar is buying at 16 kwacha 89 ngwe and selling at 17 kwacha 23 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the British pound is buying at 21 kwacha 05 ngwe and selling at 21 kwacha 46 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the euro is buying at 18 kwacha 89 ngwe and selling at 19 kwacha 26 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the South African rand is buying at 1 kwacha 07 ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha 09 ngwe. That is our money market for today. Kwacha against the US dollar there is at 16.89 and selling at 17.23. Miriam, we have seen progress when it comes to stability of our local currency.
And this is how it should be, Prudence, because the more our culture performs like this, doesn't mean that our good will keep on increasing. So anyway, this is what we hope to see in the next near future. And right about now, we are going to be joined shortly by our guest of this morning, our first guest of this morning. Prudence, before I introduce our guest, you did cover something where it was said that the Bank of Zambia was recently hacked by, some attackers. Probably you can kindly highlight our viewers more on that.
Of course, Miriam, in the second week of May 2022, I think about that was last week or the week before, we did see information, of course, circulate to say the Bank of Zambia was hacked by unknown people. We didn't know who hacked the bank and what kind of information they got out of that. But the Bank of Zambia IT director, during the monetary policy announcement on Wednesday, did, of course, allude to the fact that they know who attacked the bank, and that is an international group called Hive Group. And of course, it was a ransomware attack where they demanded for money in exchange for the information for the bank. But of course, the bank did mention to say we didn't really need to go that route because none of important information was shipped out of the country. And of course, the fact that the bank has got everything under control. But just to make us understand what we are discussing, we are going to play you a clip from what the Bank of Zambia said with regards to the hack that happened. And we are going to have an IT specialist to just discuss some of the dangers that come with IT. And if you are a company, how is it that you can protect your data? And
I think Zambia has been, prone to these cyber attacks of late, looking at, let's talk about mobile banking. Like Airtel, MTN, you'll find someone send you, these messages by swindlers saying, no, send me so much and what. So,
and of course,
anyway,
just a week ago, if I remember very well, Airtel was, Airtel mobile money, MTN mobile money was equally hacked. We saw a situation where people were complaining, those who deal in mobile money, to say my money has disappeared. And when they called MTN, they said they were of course, putting everything under control. So,
anyway,
I don't know where we're going, but we're going to have an expert to discuss that in detail. Even right about now, we are going to look at what is it that the Bank of Zambia said with regards to this. In the second week of May 2022, the Bank of Zambia suffered a cyber attack on its infrastructure, a situation that brought fear on members of the public who wondered whether sensitive information of the country was in the hands of the wrong people. And Bank of Zambia Information Communication Technology Director Greg Nsofo, in responding to a question on the attack raised by the media at a monetary policy announcement meeting in Lusaka Wednesday, has named an international group called Hive Group of having been behind the attack, and says no important information was shipped out of the country by the attackers.
Might not be forthcoming with a lot of details, considering that it's a matter that we are still managing. But for your own information, we know the attackers. It's a group called the Hive Group. They're quite common and with this kind of things. However, from our perspective, there is no much damage that has been done to our infrastructure. You might be aware that pretty much all our core systems are still up and running. Not much sensitive data has actually been shipped out. So the data that might be leaked out there is actually testing data for all intents and purposes.
And Mr. Nsofo also says the attackers demanded for a ransom from the bank, but that the bank declined to negotiate with the attackers as it was not necessary.
It's a ransomware that we experienced. As you can imagine, a ransomware comes with a demand of money. But knowing that we had protected our core systems, it wasn't any necessary for us to even engage in that kind of conversation. So we pretty much told them where to get off because it's our data.
And Bank of Zambia Governor Dr. Denny Kalialia says the Monetary Policy Committee has decided to maintain the policy rate at 9% in the second quarter of 2022, taking into consideration various factors.
One is a sharp decline in inflation over the past 3 quarters, and the projection that it will trend towards the 6 to 8% target range by the end of 2023. We also took into account the positive efforts that we have observed in the implementation of fiscal consolidation measures that the government is undertaking. We equally looked at what is happening to growth in our economy. Then we cast our eyes also on what is happening to the financial sector, in particular the vulnerabilities and risks that surround the sector.
The governor also says an official creditors committee has been formed comprising the G20 members, mostly from the Palace Club.
As we speak, the committee has been formed, so all we are waiting for now is when actually they will meet to start the deliberations. So there is progress. Like I said, as people who are affected, obviously, we are anxious.
And Deputy Governor Dr. Francis Chipimo says 65 million United States dollars gold reserves have so far been secured by the bank through the Gold Reserve Initiative. Prudence Chota reporting for Camnet TV News.
So that was a news clip from Wednesday's monetary policy briefing announcement, where the Bank of Zambia IT Director, Dr. Greg Nsofu, mentioned to the fact that the information that was hacked from the bank is not something that they have to worry about. And of course, he mentioned Hive Group, an international company that is notorious with such kind of activities of having been behind the attack. But today we are looking at how safe ransom software attack on the Bank of Zambia. How safe is cyberspace in our country? Of course, if you're just tuning into Camnet TV, I am your host, Prudence Chota, and I am joined by my co-host, Miriam Kaimba. And in studio, we have been joined by Mr. Emmanuel Mwanakatwe, who's an IT specialist, who's just going to help us understand how safe cyberspace is in our country. Mr. Mwanakatwe, good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you so much. So we know the story that has been trending of late, where we saw hackers hack into Zambia's central bank, which is the Bank of Zambia. But
and people would be questioning, the country's central bank being hacked by, these hackers. Yeah, so anyway.
Well, look, thank you so much for having me. So let's take it this way, that cyber attacks have always been there. And they happen and can happen to any institution, irrespective of whether it's a bank or any institution. These things have been happening. But perhaps the reason why we get to have to hear this news is partly because now we are sensitized in terms of digital technology, the digital environment. But otherwise, these things have always been there. Yeah.
So how safe can you say the cyberspace is in Zambia?
It is as safe as we can be proactive. So in other words, who is proactive between a thief and a policeman? Okay? So these are the issues that we need to begin to look at. We need to be proactive, but also to ensure that we have the right security safeguards in place.
Okay.
Every time, including capacity building in terms of skill sets, but also having the right technologies in place. So these technologies in place I have in mind could be now what we are calling unified threat management. Okay. So this is what I may say a conglomerate of software applications, security applications, that are clustered in one particular sort of compound. And so what you have there, anti-malware and spam, intrusion detection systems, and many others that are able to deter any threat or indeed any attack to our digital assets.
Okay. In 2016, cyber attack study indicated that Zambia lost about 4 million United States dollars, almost that's 100 million, in a year about 6 years ago, at the hands of cyber crimes that hacked the bank records with the help of local and international cartels, according to their study.
Right.
So now let's look at the measures on how we can protect our cyberspace as a country.
Okay, first and foremost, perhaps let me begin with the very basics. Allow me, if I may use that approach. So, the reason why we seek to protect the data is ideally for 4 reasons. So, you want to make your data available to the, to the legitimate users. You want to make your data confidential, maintain the integrity of the data, but also ensure that the right individuals have access to the data and authenticate themselves into the digital assets. So when you ask about all those scams, like I did mention, these things have always been there. It's not just in Zambia, but they're happening everywhere. So understand also that digital technology knows no jurisdiction, whether it's in America, whether it's in Zambia. These things are happening. But like I did mention, we need to put up safeguards in place so that we protect as much as possible our data infrastructure by being proactive with especially, and also benchmarking our industry, best practices with what is happening in other institutions. We are able to signage and get to share ideas, and how best then we can be able to protect ourselves.
Okay, we did see Dr. Nsofo indicating the case of the Bank of Zambia to say all the information is safe and we don't have to worry about all sorts of things with regards to the data that was gotten. Maybe as an IT specialist, when your institution has been hacked, how safe can you say the information is after the process?
First, like I did mention, every institution is susceptible to attacks. So how do you get to see, or how do you get to know that our data is safe? First and foremost, when your data is harvested, okay, you do not know in whose hands your data finds itself into. But this is again where it becomes very important for all of us to ensure that first and foremost, no one even gets access to our data by, putting up, like I said, defense systems in place so that our data is made to be secure as much as possible. So yes, you get to have your data harvested, and how then do you know, or how do you determine how much data has been harvested? And how do we get to have access to those individuals? You talked about ransomware. Ransomware is kind of notorious, kind of attack that is able to allow someone to encrypt your data to an extent that you may not even have access to it. And so they will tell you, pay this, typically in Bitcoin and the like. But in the main, yes, we can know how much data has been harvested. But what is important is the data has been harvested, isn't it? Someone already has access to your data that is supposed to be private. Again, we need to be very proactive in our approach. Yeah.
Companies that are listening to you this morning, not just the bank,
Right.
but other companies that are dealing in cyberspace and other businesses. Of course, I think this time we have moved to a digital world where almost every business is relying on IT.
IT, exactly, for their information.
So what do we need to invest in as businesses in order to avoid such occurrences?
We are living now at a time when the world is so much into web. So our access to data infrastructure is through websites. And unlike at the advent of the internet when, most of the people used, email. So what sort of infrastructure do we need, or those institutions need? First and foremost, they need to invest in, legitimate devices. So here I have in mind legitimate, devices like firewalls, routers that are legitimate, but also to ensure that our data is, encrypted, as it were, but also to use digital, certificates, especially those that allows the URLs or the website, or rather the web address to be stronger. So you'll notice that, let's imagine that we are here. This is an institution, because we're also speaking for Camnet. we want to access our data on www.camnet.something, okay? You notice that if there are no certificates, that HTTP, okay, will not have S at the end, okay? But when you have certificates in place, if someone here has installed certificates on your server, the HTTP is going to have an S at the end, meaning that those individuals that are accessing our resources from the server, are going to have secure connection. So they should be able to buy security certificates. Typically, we call them SSL. But there are also issues to do with IP security. There are also issues to do with, and this I think I should emphasize, that particularly in Zambia, what we get to see as attacks normally are emanating from social engineering, and less actually to do with on the technical abilities. So what is social engineering? It's about sensitizing individuals on the dangers of, divulging certain of critical information or sensitive, information to those that are otherwise not privileged or, privy to our data. Yeah.
Okay, just to read on your last thought, we have seen the rise of mobile banking, popularly known as Airtel and MTN, and we have seen the increase of the threat of cyber crimes. Can we talk about that? Yeah.
Again, like I said, much of it is driven by naivety, carelessness, sometimes collusion between all these stakeholders. What about naivety? It's a case where I come here and I ask you, Miriam, so how do you work here? Okay, and then you begin to say everything about how you work here. Okay. And yet you don't even know my intention. You see that?
Important.
Very important, yes. In other words, for instance, I come to the booth, right? And there you are. You ask me about what pin. Okay? But because I'm very honest, or should I say naive, I'll be able to share the pin. But do I know what you are going to use the pin for? So it's much to do with, like I did mention, social engineering, and actually less to do with, technical abilities of a hacker, to use those abilities to hack into the computer system.
Interesting.
But also there are issues to do with simple things like shoulder safing. Okay? So I'm here, I'm seeing what you're doing on the phone. Okay? There are issues to do with tailgating. The very fact that I can pair up, my device with you, you don't know what I can do. Okay, so we also need to ensure that we invest in, training, sensitizing individuals on the dangers of, digital technologies. Because I can be very honest with you. That do you know that, Miriam, your phone probably has a lot of malware, and you don't know, and that it is possible that I see what you do on your phone? These are possibilities. These are possibilities. But because we are mere end users, okay, and because also we lack the technical ability, okay, we are naive, we are innocent, and so we just use these things. But the truth of the matter is, there's a lot that I can do to your phone, and without you knowing even.
So most of the time we have a tendency of, can you send me something via Bluetooth? Okay, let's pair phones. So
that, yes, not just Bluetooth, but also you see that there are devices like a router, okay, those that are not secure. So you can come here, and I'm seated, I'm parked somewhere near. As long as I'm near, I have access, to your network because you haven't provided security on your router, okay? There's something that we call SSID. In other words, we put security safeguards so that even if I try to come near your device, first and foremost, I must be asked to be authenticated through use of a password or some kind of a PIN. That is much safer, okay? Even if it's Bluetooth, even if it's, that's the approach that institutions should begin to take now.
We know hotels sometimes provide Wi-Fi, which they give out to almost anyone who visits their premises and stuff like that. Do you think in such cases their businesses, if they're using the same range of internet, is protected?
It is, and that's why, first and foremost, they're allowing you to have access by giving you what?
A password.
A PIN, okay? So the very fact that that is possible, the fellow at the back of things knows exactly That is a security safeguard that they've put in place to ensure that as you access their network, or as you are accessing the internet through their, through their router, or or radio, at least the data is safe. What is worse is where you sit in the hotel and no one even allows you to, or no one gives you a PIN, okay, but you are able to access internet services through their infrastructure. That is even dangerous. But in the main, what we should also know is that there are many dangers arising out of the use of technologies. And we ought to be very careful in terms of what operating systems we use. Okay, for instance, I'll tell you, Miriam, do you know the operating system you are using for your phone? Do you know where you got it? Is it legitimate? What about maybe Windows? What sort of Windows operating system are you using? Is it even up to date? So these are all points through which, or weak points through which malicious individuals could actually use to harvest our data.
And as individuals, we don't take much interest to, to
no, you don't. You know why you don't?
Take keen interest of knowing what operation system I'm using, what Windows or on my PC I'm using, No,
you know why? It's because, sorry to say, and this is, I think, in my view, it's very important. We need to educate our citizens with, or equip our citizens with right information through school. This time on age, Miriam, we are not supposed to be learning about a keyboard or a mouse. Hey, prudence. We are supposed to be learning or providing knowledge to our youngsters on information such as what we are talking about.
Yes, of course. From
grade 5. They should be able to learn programming, because it's those programmers that turn out to be hackers, that turn out to be, security, officers in institutions, to be able to come up with security facilities to protect our data infrastructure. But we have to start at a particular early age. And
you find most of the time when people get to learn more about, IT, programming, let's talk about different softwares, it's when they go to university, and apply for these courses.
But by that time, your brain is already tired. Okay? We need to expose our youngsters to programming when the brains are very fresh. That is like grade 5, grade 6, grade 7. So by the time they are reaching university, you'll see that they'll be doing serious code, doing programs, our own indigenous programs, that we should be able to use as a country.
Yeah. Anyway, we have the Cybersecurity and Cybercrimes Act of 2021. How effective do you think this is in protecting the cyberspace?
That is now legislative, isn't it? Yeah. And I want to believe that it is effective. As you can see, there is a lot that is happening now. If you commit an offense, those pieces of legislation are coming into effect, so it's very effective. But I think that area you said, what should institutions do to safeguard, their data infrastructure? The other thing that I can mention is having security policies in place. What is a security policy, for instance? It's simply the do's and don'ts, what we are supposed to do with our data. That is very important, and it starts from there. Yeah.
Very important here. This is the breakfast show that comes to your screen every morning from 07 to 09 hours. And we have Mr. Emmanuel Mwanakatwe, an IT specialist. And of course, we are discussing the ransomware attack on the Bank of Zambia. How safe is the cyberspace in the country? If you are a business, you are an entity, an institution, and every kind of business that is relying on the use of a web for your information, important aspects have been discussed today with regards to how is it that you can protect your information, you can protect your data. But if you are watching and you've got that question that you would like to ask Mr. Emmanuel Mwanakatwe, you can send through those questions via text messages, and we are going to forward them to him to ensure that we get back to you with a response or an answer. But cybersecurity space in Zambia, how safe are we? We have discussed all that and other things with regards to the topic of discussion this morning. But of course, we are not keeping Mr. Emmanuel Mwanakatwe for long on this program. Maybe as we come to the end of our discussion this morning, sir, Zambia is losing billions of kwacha via the internet. And most of the monies are going out of the country because even the attack that we saw on the Bank of Zambia was necessitated by a company that is not even based here in Zambia. How can we avoid going forward losing money via cybersecurity?
Yes. So there are, let me talk about phishing attacks and farming attacks as well. So phishing are those sort of threats or attacks that come through unsuspecting emails. So you get to receive, and there's a link in that email that you click here, and this email you don't even know.
You don't even know.
And you know, something, in case you are Googling something, most of the time you would find, oh, okay, accept these cookies or something, and then you just click without knowing.
Without knowing.
Yeah.
Especially, you see, bots and cookies are very good, but can also be very bad. So avoid, you know, opening emails that you actually don't know. But also, these individuals have also mutated in a point that they're able to clone a particular website. It could be Bank of Zambia even. It could be any bank. It could be any institution. They clone the website, and then the link to that particular website is also bogus. Okay? So naively, you are able to, you think that this is a legitimate website, but you don't know what you are doing. Once you are there, okay, you expose yourself. So phishing attacks, farming attacks, these are very common. And again,
what's the difference between the two, phishing attacks and phishing attacks?
Phishing, these are basically, you know, scams through emails. But farming have to do with, you know, the DNS or manipulating the web address.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, like I did mention, you might think I am going into the website for Camnet, okay? But in fact, someone has just swapped a few things in the web address. And then you think that you are accessing Camnet, when in fact it's not. And at that particular point, someone is able to manipulate your data, and they are able to link, you know, themselves to your computer system, and a lot of things can happen. But also because we are not sensitizing employees, imagine such a thing happening at a bank or at a, you know, at a company where we are able to access any email. So your computer becomes, or your client, which we call, becomes a weak point through which someone can actually gain access into your network.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, so we need to be very careful. And much of it, like I said, is really about training employees, training citizens, to be very careful about how they go about with their digital lives.
Nowadays, I've been receiving strange WhatsApp messages. You find that today you wake up, there is this number plus two.
Yeah, and you know, you get to wonder, why did this person get my number?
And when I ask them, why did you get my number, they always say, on this side, which I don't even know, but I receive that almost every day.
Yes.
So how is it that we are people from outside, whoever they are, accessing our system, even sending you a message on WhatsApp? And what are the dangers of going into conversations?
Unfortunately, that's the nature of digital technology. Okay, because it knows no border, isn't it? But again, and also understand that the security institutions, including the providers of these technologies, are doing the very best they can to ensure that they deter all these, you know, illegitimate individuals. But irrespective, it's also up to us to ensure that, first and foremost, someone, like you said, sends you a text on WhatsApp. And yes, because they are strangers, you can respond, isn't it? Yeah, but if you see that the conversation is not going anywhere, and I've received those many times myself, what I do is just shut them off. I think that's the best that you can do.
Okay.
Yes, from the user point of view.
I'm sure our youngsters get excited when they see this white man is texting me, asking
no,
me,
again,
no.
Again, I can advise anyone listening that there's a lot of filth that is happening on the internet, and avoid falling prey, you know, to such schemes by always ensuring that you authenticate your data. And by the way, even when you want to buy something online, isn't it? You have to probably, you know, take a survey. Ask someone else who has transacted before on such a platform. because that way it gives you this kind of proof that it's a legitimate platform. Because again, if we just get excited to any particular website, and there we go divulging our, our records, that becomes also dangerous. Yeah.
Interesting. Anyway, that was Mr. Emmanuel Manakatwe, an IT specialist, who were talking about ransomware software attack on the Bank of Zambia and how safe is our cyberspace in the country. Unfortunately, we have to let go of you right now. This morning, I wish, Prudence, we had enough time, to talk about this more in details, because, a lot of people, fall prey to such things. But anyway, this is where we come to the end of our discussion with Mr. Manakatwe. Please, we'll take a short break and catch us on the other side with our other guest. Good morning.
Oh, we testify, we celebrate.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
We testify, we celebrate. For all you've done, Lord, we give you all the praise. Oh, we testify, we celebrate.
Are you a married man or woman? Are you encountering challenges in your marriage? Are you planning to take your marriage and love relationship to higher levels? Your business platform is all set for you as a couple. You are invited to attend Zambia's First Love and Marriage Plus Business Conference. Amidst uncertainties in the economy, higher divorce rate in the world, plan to be one of the most successful couple in Zambia. Date 28th May 2022. Time from 9 hours to 16 hours. Participation fee 1,200 kwacha per couple. Lunch inclusive. For registration, payment can be done through MTN mobile money on 0962 965 883 or 0979 753 010 for Airtel Money. Venue: The Healing Word Ministries International. Speakers: Professor and Mrs. Catherine Munkumba. And your hosts, Pastors Victoria and Moses Chilo. This is a must-attend conference. Plan and make a date with us. Your lives, marriage, and future will never be the same. Remember, we are born for greatness. Book your seats by calling 0962 965 883. See you on the 28th May 2022.
Your love always brings me back.
Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
We're about to start.
Thank you so much for staying tuned to the Camnet TV Breakfast Show. Like I said before we went on a break, Prudence Chota, we were having a discussion with Mr. Dr. Emmanuel Wanakatwe concerning the, cyberspace in the country, and how we talked about how Zambia has been prone to such activities, people being victim of such crimes by different people. And the central bank
of Zambia suffered those attacks just 2 weeks
and
ago.
a lot of people would still have some questions like the country's central bank, but anyway, these attackers they attack anyone. But right about now in the studio we are joined by the Zambia Institute for Policy Analysis and Research Executive Director Dr. Henrik Mpunko. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Miriam. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming to the program on the Camnet TV Breakfast Show. We're glad to have you.
Thank you very much.
Anyway, please tell us more about yourself and the Zambia Institute for Policy and Analysis and Research before we go into our topic of discussion this morning.
Well, thank you very much. About myself, I am an economist, and a management scientist, and a little bit of law somewhere in the mix. Right now I'm executive director at the Zambia Institute for Policy Analysis and Research, but in my lifetime I've been a lecturer, a technical diplomat, and I've also run a training institute. I was once director of the Zambia Institute of Management. I also served in the public service. Is that enough?
Interesting. I think the list is still going.
I think those who are watching in the comfort of their home and on different devices and platforms are wondering what is Bruce trying to say here. But of course, today we are looking at how sustainable is Zambia's tax system, and we know that the Zambia Institute for Policy Research and Analysis has conducted a number of research in the past few months. But maybe going to our topic of discussion today, Doc, how sustainable is Zambia's tax system?
Let me just mention one thing. That I come from the Zambia Institute of Policy Analysis and Research. It's a policy research institute. It's set up by the government of Zambia, and basically as a sounding board for various policy areas. So we research, we analyze policy areas and so on, and give advice to government, to civil society and various. So we're very engaged in the policy program of government. So it's upon that we engage in research activities on, say, fiscal policy, monetary policy, and so on. So the subject of the tax system is something which is a very important and sensitive area because it speaks to the heart of economic policy. To answer your question, our thinking in general is that there is a problem with the tax system as it stands. First of all, it is very, it impacts very heavily on the people. The tax system is very, it actually kicks in, it gets up to the top rate of tax at a very low level of income. It's about 6,000, 7,000. And what we do is also make a comparison and say how, for instance, the Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection has done a basket of goods which they regularly publish, and that has said that the basket for a family of 5 could cost about 9,000 kwacha. Now, that's basic. Now we're saying you pay the top rate of tax about 37% when you're about 6,000 and 7,000. I think that kind of tax system is a little bit too heavy on the population. So it's very penal. It doesn't help productivity. It doesn't incentivize production. So in that sense, what I would say, I don't want to say it's not sustainable. I would like to say that it is not the best kind of system to help our population and also to encourage them to be productive. What we are suggesting, what we suggest, in fact, what we are doing right now, we're carrying out further research in the subject matter, trying to see what would be the impact if we adjusted For instance, they pay as you earn to different levels, structured it differently. What would be the impact on revenue? That is one of the major issues. That when we say make adjustments to the tax bands, make adjustments to the tax schedules, make adjustments to the tax-free band, the fear is that there will be a loss of revenue from government. So we want to go through the process to see if, in fact, there will be a loss of revenue to the government if those tax bands are adjusted, if we lowered it. It does not follow straight that just because you have lowered the tax bands, the income is going to reduce. There are other dynamics which come into play. Yes.
And Doc, in the 2022 national budget, we saw when government talked about how they were going to raise revenue, the revenue that they were supposed to earn through maybe pay as you earn was even more than that which they were going to earn through corporate tax from institutions, meaning our people and ordinary people are being taxed more than even corporate institutions. Let's speak to those areas.
Well, the truth of the matter, if you look at the structure of revenue, tax revenue, the burden of government revenue falls on the lower income groups. So the lower income groups are the ones who bankroll the government rather than the corporate tax. So this is what we are saying, is that the low income people are the ones who carry the burden of government. And that is not very helpful. But to make it worse, I think what you also recognize that there must be a significant number of people who are also not paying taxes, even amongst the individuals. And these are well-heeled people who we can say are in the informal sector. Formal sector, this is a high-level informal sector. So the estimate at the moment is at about 60% compliance on taxes. So the big portion of people who are not paying taxes. So people like you, maybe who are in the high income bracket, I know, sitting in this high-tech studio, I can only imagine the kind of class.
Exactly. Yes, and of course, it's
but there are people,
a bit painful. I'll speak on my behalf. It's quite painful. Yeah.
Yes, I can understand, and you see, it's also demoralizing. Has a demoralizing effect on productivity. Maybe you come, when you think about your salary, you calculate, your morale saps. And you say,
exactly, because you always have those thoughts that
but yes, you know, you have to make a contribution. But as in all taxes, the tax system has to be fair. Okay, it must be fair. Those are the principles of taxation. If people must feel that they are contributing, because they have to contribute. So they must feel happy to be contributing. And once you've contributed, Prudence, you'd also like to know. This is one of the major problems. When government collects money, that money is your money. It's the citizens' money. And government is a custodian of that money. Okay? So they collect money from you so that they can go and provide services. So now you pay taxes and you sit back. You say, oh, money has been collected. Your responsibility as a citizen is to say, now you've collected this 100 kwacha from me. I would like to know, where are you taking that money? That's why we have the national budget. The government declares this is the taxes we're going to collect over the next 1 year. Okay? With Madam Prudence, Madam Miriam, you have to contribute so much and so much. Okay? And they show you how you're going to spend it. So your job is to say, how have you spent that money? You have the right to go through Parliament and everyone and say, how is this money being spent? That is your civic duty. Okay? You cannot just sit back and they collect the money and you sit back. You are not exercising your rights and your duties as a citizen of this country. That's why we have this budget analysis. We are having quarterly reviews of the budget to show you how the money is being spent on economic sectors, on the social sectors, on various sectors. So you can have access to that information and say, yes, the money is being used properly. That is your responsibility.
Okay, government has requested stakeholders to start making their 2023 budget submission, more especially in the tax area. What proposals would you suggest government consider in the 2022 national budget? Would have considered in the 2022 national budget? Should consider
in the 2023
2023 budget.
Yeah.
You know, I think part of those contributions must come from the experience we're going to have over this year. After the announcement of this 2022 budget, and you see it's the first year of the new government, so we're seeing them put in place their policies, and we're going to see the impact of those policies, and then we're also going to see the performance of the budget over the year to see how it's doing. So part of the suggestions must be based on that experience. But I would probably just go back to our initial question, which is the tax rate. I think government must progressively look at the issue of reducing the tax burden on the ordinary people. You know, in this time of depression, because of the COVID experience, and consumption is subdued, we should also look at ways of expanding what we call aggregate demand, encourage consumption. Because when we encourage consumption, we encourage demand, we also elicit production. Production takes place, then we can start employing people again. This helps us with economic recovery. So it's not just a question of lifting the tax burden from you as a matter of charity. It's also an economic imperative. Because I know, Madam Prudence, Madam Miriam, if you get an extra 1,000 kwacha in your handbag, the next thing you're going to do, I'm sure you're going to go to ShopRite or Woolworths. So all that money is going to be spent. Do you understand? All that money is going to be, all the 1,000 kwacha, I don't know, 10,000 kwacha you're going to get, all of it is going to be spent. The 5,000 kwacha is going to be spent. That is consumption. Now, if you go to Woolworths or you go to ShopRite, you'll pay for those things. Some of those things attract value-added tax. So you're still paying tax, even when you get that extra income. So it's not a complete loss to the government in the immediate term. So what I'm saying is that government must consider the path of reducing the tax burden. Probably elevate the tax-free threshold to a higher level, from 4,500 to a higher level, and also revise the tax bands so that it does not hit these people at a low tax level. You know, a high income, in my view, if you want me to suggest, I don't know if you're in that league.
Yes, please.
For me, if somebody getting at least 100,000, that is when you say high income and should be paying the top rate of tax, not 10,000. No, and certainly not 7,000.
Of course.
And the tax band should be raised. Maybe. Can I suggest something?
Yes, please.
Yes, please, Doc.
Are you sure you want to hear my suggestion?
Doc, we want to hear
Those are the suggestions that we need to know.
Of discussion this morning.
Yes, well, if you ask me, but of course, as I speak, I don't speak with evidence, okay, which is not quite right. We'll do our simulations. We'll be going through a process. We're actually doing a specific study. But, you know, from the point of view of fairness, from the point of view of looking at what people are earning, and in terms of the capacity of those incomes, I think a tax-free band of up to 10,000. So if you're earning less than 10,000, you should not be paying tax. That's what I would hazard. That's subject to the simulations that we are going to do. But if you ask me in a corner, intuitively, that's my answer.
Interesting, Doc. The former Minister of Finance, Margaret Manakato, did propose a move from value-added tax, which is VAT, to sales tax. Pardon me. What impact do you think this would have had on the country? And going forward, should we try to consider this option?
I think the jury is still out on that matter. The way I would put it is that the tax system was revised from sales tax to value-added tax. There are certain benefits which were foreseen from that arrangement. And this has been in place for maybe 20 years or something like that, around 20 years. I think the most important thing in the tax system is when you create it, when you put it in place, follow through with it and implement through and through. So if you, for instance, put value-added tax system and then you provide for reimbursement, then you don't reimburse the people for the value-added tax that is collected, then the whole system is bound to be seen as being defective. So what I'm saying is that the value-added tax system has not been properly tested. Okay? When you put in place a system, follow the rules. As government, follow the rules of the system that you set up. Yeah? This thing is not going to deliver itself without reinforcement. Okay? Okay, so I would prefer to say that let's stick with what we have. Let's run with it for some time, and let's make sure that when we put in place the rules, we abide by those rules. The value-added tax system is being used, it has been used in the United Kingdom for a long, long time. It has been working there. And when the tax system when it was changed in Zambia, there was a lot of excitement, a lot of enthusiasm saying, oh, now we've got a modern tax system. And it was going to be, I think in the initial stages there was excitement and there was an increase in the revenue. But I think it fell out of the way because of failure to comply by government itself.
Okay, so do you think sales tax is maybe an option we should consider as a country?
No. As I'm saying, let's stay with the system that we have. Okay. For the time being, there is no need of changing systems anyhow, just like that. And this is a major aspect of economic policy. So you can't just, after 2 years, after 10 years you change, another 10 years you change. You know, there are signals you're sending out to the stakeholders, economic stakeholders, that your policies are fickle, can change at any time. That is not a good signal to send. You must adopt a system which you run with for 100 years. Long after you're gone, it should still be running. That's if you devise a well thought out economic policy.
Okay. Of course, Zambia Institute for Policy Analysis and Research Executive Director Dr. Herek Mpuku is in studio, and of course we are discussing how sustainable Zambia's tax system is. We are going to take a short breather and we will be back. Stay tuned to Camnet TV.
Are you a married man or woman? Are you encountering challenges in your marriage? Are you planning to take your marriage and love relationship to higher levels? Your business platform is all set for you as a couple. You are invited to attend Zambia's First Love and Marriage plus Business Conference. Amidst uncertainties in the economy, higher divorce rate in the world, plan to be one of the most successful couple in Zambia. Date 28th May 2022. Time from 9 hours to 16 hours. Participation fee 1,200 kwacha per couple, lunch inclusive. For registration, payment can be done through MTN mobile money on 0962 965 883 or 0979 753 010 for Airtel Money. Venue, the Healing Word Ministries International. Speakers, Professor and Mrs. Catherine Munkumba. And your hosts, Pastors Victoria and Moses Chilo. This is a must-attend conference. Plan and make a date with us. Your lives, marriage and future will never be the same. Remember, we are born for greatness. Book for your seats by calling 0962 965 883. See you on the 28th May 2022.
Your love always brings me back.
Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Okay, thank you so much for staying tuned to Camnet TV, not just another channel. And this morning we are discussing how sustainable is Zambia's tax system. And in studio, I am joined by Dr. Mpuko from the Zambia Institute for Policy Analysis and Research. He is the Executive Director, in case you're just tuning into Camnet TV. So we have discussed some of those. And this program is being streamed live on Facebook. In case you've missed some of the things we've discussed, you can just go back and listen to what the doctor had to say about the tax system and some of the proposals that is made with regards to this topic of discussion. So just moving forward, Doc, before maybe we look at another aspect of something interesting that happened this week, let's talk about mineral royalty taxes that the mines are currently paying. We've seen a lot of debate has surrounded this particular topic, saying the government has given tax holidays to the mining sector. But I remember Minister of Mines, Paul Kabuswe, the other time declined to say, no, we've not given them tax holidays. They are still paying taxes. They've just been moved to other sectors, but the taxes are still being paid. So in the area of mineral royalties as a country, how do you think we are currently performing, and how is it that we can better collect taxes from the mining sector?
Yeah, yes, I think the Minister of Finance in a way is right that it's not really a tax holiday. What they've said is that when the profits of the mining companies are computed, when we are computing the taxes, we must deduct the mineral royalty tax. Okay, if we don't deduct the mineral royalty tax, that means the quantum of profits which are being taxed will be higher. So in that sense, there will be a loss of revenue. If we make that tax, mineral royalty tax, deductible for tax purposes, then there will be a loss of revenue. I think that's what people are talking about. That's what they're interpreting as a tax holiday. You know, what we should look at is what is actually happening now, especially in terms of the global market for minerals, especially the global market for copper. Copper's prices were a bit low, but now with the advent of COVID and the shift in demand to more electronic means, that means copper is in the ascendance. So the demand for copper is going to increase over the next 10, 20 years. And the price is at an all-time high now. So what I would say, first and foremost, the way the mineral royalty tax is imposed is such that it reaches its peak also at less than 10,000. Okay? So any income above, say, I think 8,000, 6,000, 8,000, any income above that attracts the same rate of tax. Now you can imagine those are what we may even call supernormal profits over 10,000. Imagine if it reaches 20,000, and that is a possibility, which means the rate of taxation will be the same. So that means the amount of money that the mining companies will be making will be substantial and will not be attracting substantial benefit ourselves as citizens. So what I would suggest is that we should create more a schedule which goes above the 10,000. Project, because you don't know what the world will bring over the next many years. You don't know what kind of innovations will come through, and what kind of demand will be placed on our mineral products. So, for the benefit of your descendants, you must put in place a tax system which ensures that the resources which are God endowed also benefit your generations which come after. So that is something. But apart from that, you know, you must also look at. You want me to do with only mineral export tax? Yeah. So the mineral royalty tax, I think that is something which needs to be reviewed. I'll leave the debate about deductibility. I've already made my comment. I'll leave that debate. So it's also another line of argument. But let's leave it. But I think the other progressive thing about corporate tax is that government also reduced the corporate tax rates. And interestingly, the revenue gains to corporate tax income have actually gone up in the first quarter. So there's a positive sign in that sense.
Okay, that is interesting. It means we've seen a lot of companies complying to paying taxes. Even those who were running away are now coming back because the tax regime is favoring them.
Once the tax system becomes more favorable, you know, the company is not engaged in tax evasion or tax avoidance, because they know, okay, this is fair. The cost of avoiding this taxation and the risks are too high. Let me just comply.
Yeah.
Okay, so be fair. Be fair. I'm talking to you as a citizen. Be fair to the other citizens who have to pay tax.
Dr. Mpuku from the Zambia Institute for Policy Analysis and Research, and where we are discussing how sustainable is Zambia's tax system, and of course is brought out a lot of important aspects with regards to that. But this week also, in the clip that we just played earlier, where we were discussing in the earlier with our earlier guest, where we were talking about cybersecurity issues, we also did play a clip where the Bank of Zambia Governor, Dr. Denny Kalyalia, announced that the policy rate has been maintained at 9% in the second quarter of 2022. This is the second time that the bank is maintaining the policy rate at 9%. But in case you're watching and you're wondering, what is a policy rate and what are the impact of it being maintained at 9%? These are the questions that we are throwing now to Dr. Mpuku, just to discuss even as we move to the close of the program. Dr. Mpuku, policy rate, what is it and what does the maintaining of the policy rate at 9% mean for our country and the economy and of course the borrowers?
The policy rate would be the rate at which the bank lends to the financial institutions. It is an indicator in terms of, it sends a signal to the economic stakeholders about, the financial stakeholders about the cost of money, the cost of borrowing, the cost of financial resources. So once the policy rate is set, the banks, the financial sector, will use that as a basis upon which they can determine their own lending rates. So if the Bank of Zambia pushes up the lending rate, automatically, because that means the cost of borrowing for the financial sector is going to go up, so they also push up their rates. So that's a signal. It tells the cost of borrowing. It tells people the accessibility of loans from the banking sector. So what has happened, what the bank also uses that as an instrument by controlling liquidity, controlling the money supply through the medium of the interest rate. What it actually does is send signals within the economy, okay, of either increasing the money supply or reducing money supply. And it's an important instrument. It is perceived that it can be used for controlling or influencing the rate of inflation. So when the bank perceives that the rate of inflation is getting too high, it decides that we should tighten monetary policy and increases the interest rates. That's to forestall the rise. If there is a bit of reduction in the rate of inflation and it feels it's something we can live with, then it relaxes that by reducing the interest rate.
Okay, Doc, I'll have to hold you a bit. We have a caller. Hello, good morning.
Caller.
Good morning. Hello, good morning. Good morning, you're through to the program. Okay, it seems we lost that caller. I don't know if it is on the part of our technical part, or maybe it is the caller. But you can call back and we'll get to respond to your question with regards to today's topic of discussion. So for that caller, we will ask you to call back and we will, of course, respond to that question. So, Doc, you can continue with your thought.
So what I was saying is that the central bank will use the interest rate.
Doc, let me hold you. It means it looks like the caller really wants to make a contribution. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Good morning, sir. You're through to the program. We can hear you. Tell us your name and where you're calling from. Oh, thank you so much, Reverend Manduli. You can go ahead with your contribution. Good morning.
Yes, thank you very much. By commending you guys, we have been able to keep from what you spoken in regards to the how there is a tax system in Zambia, the solution in particular, especially in regards to the political manners in our country, how that could break it in regards to the Minister of Finance.
Reverend Manduli, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Your line is a little bit bad. Okay, but I can hear you now. If you can contribute now.
What you saying?
Yes, please go ahead.
Are you able to get me now?
Yes, I'm able to get you.
Okay, I think it is convinced that the best I dare to say when I respect to the Atlantic and how that the tax down with regards to the very tax panel should be considered in the 2022-2023 budget. And that is just really free on that proposal is making.
Okay, Reverend, I'll have to cut you. We are unable to hear you.
Okay.
Yes, please call back. Call back and hopefully we can get you, but the line is quite bad. Okay, I'm sure he was speaking from the little I heard from the proposals that you're making with regards to the budget. But I hope we can get you back on the line so that we can hear the contribution, or rather the question that you have to ask.
Did you get what he said?
No, I didn't, but if I got him clearly, wanted to speak to the proposals that you're making for the taxes. Yeah, I think that was a submission you wanted to make. But in case you are still watching, you can call us and let's get to hear your question. But we are moving forward with the monetary policy maintained at 9%.
Yes, what I was trying to say before another call comes through, the interest rate is used as an instrument to try to influence the rate of inflation. So, you know, the rate of inflation that is when the government came in place was around over 20%, and then they adopted policy measures which targeted the reduction of inflation. They said by end of 2022 we must be going towards a single-digit inflation. So that means it was a important policy objective, and one of the major aspects of that is always containing the government borrowing. So what has happened in the last few months is that there's been strict adherence to the fiscal targets, both expenditure and revenue. Even the demands on central bank borrowing by the government has all been minimized. So the rate of inflation has declined, okay, over to about 16, 17%, 16, 15%. It's a moving thing.
And
so
at 11.5%.
Now 11.5%.
Yes, inflation is at 11.5%.
Yes,
Okay.
that's a very drastic
Okay.
drop in inflation. And
Yeah, I think let's speak this call.
Hello?
Reverend, we can hear you now.
Okay, am I clear now?
Yes, please, you are.
Okay. So I first of all, I'll commend you what I speak from the submissions of the guest with regards to the tax band on the law government and the proposition for them to be granted the law as a proposition that was spoken as well. And I think that I agree with you. I think it's a problem to consider our people who are in a majority low income families, but they do make those contributions to various, taxation. Because you see, I think if you go by the topic of discussion, which is how sustainable is the tax system in Zambia, I think that because it doesn't be so clear on the average and low income families, and so if you look at this, for example, I want Roger to maybe just that particular example, and many others that you could maybe look at the tax system in Zambia, be able to make a comment in terms of how best we can manage in terms of reducing the low. But let's look at the law of the four taxes you have the person that is traveling and doing business, that's probably in and of itself that is wrong with you. You've got to pay 40% of those more vehicle now. So come there. In addition to that, if a few of that there is already and then you have the road tax. And even these taxes, especially for the road tolls, most of our roads are not even that good. But then, it is the more income earners that are subjected to that kind of taxation. But then when you consider the from the low income earners, it means that it is not even the law from the Turkish government in terms of the levy spending, because that's the idea. So the low income earners, once you demonstrate, even a human being work, you still spend it, on shopping, on groceries and so forth. And those groceries, a number of them do attract tax. So for me, I just want to say, and in addition to consider the special taxes that we have enjoyed, to start and see that, some of these band them together or consider reducing those taxes because it's being present beyond the economic situation in our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend Muduli.
Very clear to me.
I know the line was quite bad, but from what I've gotten is making submissions and agreeing with your thought of saying the tax system is not sustainable, especially for low-income earners. He's saying if you look at how much money people have to pay now for transportation, if you look at the roads that we have, they are quite not favoring how much we are making as low-income earners, but you find that you're paying huge taxes. So it was also making contributions to that. And is also suggesting that maybe the government should try to exempt low-income earners from equally paying these taxes with regards to what you said earlier. If I got you, Reverend, clearly, though your line was quite bad today. I don't know why, because I know you frequently call on this program and we are able to hear you, but today, unfortunately, the line was a bit bad, but I got some of the contributions that you were trying to make. As maybe in wrapping up, Doc, you were speaking to the monetary policy and its benefit to the country. So going forward, what is it that we expect to see with regards to the monetary policy, even as we come to the conclusion?
Well, you see, I think what the central bank is doing is relaxing the restrictions by keeping the MPR at the same rate, because they've recognized that its impact on inflation, there's no need to use it because the inflation rate is dropping. But on the other side, what I would also say is that because MPR is an indicator of the cost of borrowing to the whole country, I think the government, the central bank should relax the interest rate even more, because then they will reduce the cost of borrowing. That will mean that the private sector can borrow for productive purposes. So the direction, in my view, must be more reduction in the MPR as we go into the future. I won't tell you the magnitude.
That is interesting. Zambia Institute for Policy Analysis and Research Executive Director, Dr. Harry Kimpuku, and we were discussing Zambia's tax system, how sustainable it is. The doc has brought out a lot of important aspects where it's mentioned to the fact that for low-income earners, the government should, at least in the 2022 national budget, consider them or consider relieving them from this tax burden, because looking at what is happening around in our economy, there is need for relief from those who earn low income. And of course, his thought was also supported by a caller, Dr. Reverend Reverend Muduli, who also agrees with Doc to say there is need to exempt low-income earners from paying these taxes going forward. I hope our government is listening, and I know stakeholders always listen to this program. We hope the suggestions that have been made can be put into consideration. So this was Dr. Harry Kimpuku from the Zambia Institute for Policy Analysis and Research, and I was your host, Prudence Chota, and of course I was accompanied by my co-host, Miriam Kayemba, who unfortunately had to leave set because she's rushed for an important assignment. So from me and my entire Camnet TV crew, it's bye for now, and God bless you.
Thank you. Don't even ask me to say bye.